A lot of parents think their kids struggle with defense because they're not athletic enough, they're too slow, or they just can't guard the best player. But the truth is sometimes it's kind of different. So what I want to do is offer a different perspective today in this episode. Most kids struggle defensively not because of those things so much in a way. It's maybe they don't know their roles. They don't know the position they're supposed to be at. They don't know the responsibilities of the roles. They don't know what happens if this goes this way or that goes that way. And so I think it's less of them not being athletic enough to play defense, but more not understanding the roles and responsibilities that their team should be playing defense by. And that should be set up by the coach. So I'm going to talk about that today and hopefully give parents a different perspective so that when they're watching a kid play basketball, it's not so much doom and gloom, like my kid just sucks at basketball, but more so like, oh, like here's information that can help them play better team basketball so that they're able to be a contributor to what they're doing. So yeah, that's it. Let's get into it. So one of the biggest misconceptions I hear a lot of times from parents is my kid just can't play defense. Now, I've been talking to a lot of parents whose kids will be attending either our Summer Hoops Academy, that's our summer basketball camp, or are going to be playing for our club basketball teams this spring and summer. And one of the conversations I have with parents tends to lead towards defense at times. Not everybody, but for the ones that do, it tends to become a really good conversation. And I want to get their feedback and input on what they think they're seeing, what it is that they're witnessing, and then based off of that, what's their perception of what's wrong, and then what needs to change. And then I offer my feedback. And one of the things that I tend to get is, my kid just has a problem staying in front of their person that's help. My kid just has a problem staying in front of the ball handler. They tend to get beat at times, whether it's in the full court and they're pressuring the ball. They can't guard the faster players, or maybe it's, they're good at closing out, but once they get there, they get beat off the dribble, and then they get to the rim. They're not sure how to turn and change directions, and these are all valid things. I tell a lot of kids, if you're not going to be the biggest player out there, as you get older, you're going to really have to learn how to defend full court, on ball, man to man, stay in front. A lot of coaches, I had this one coach who came out to our camp years ago, and he was talking to the kids, and this is maybe 15 years ago, and he was from a school locally around here, and they asked him, do you ever recruit kids from the area? And he said no. And he's like, well, the smallest guard in our league is 6'3". In the league, not his team, in the league is 6'3". And so, there's a lot of kids around here that can score, that have good offensive skills, but then who do they defend? If you're going to be a liability defensively, then I can't use you. We're playing real basketball. And it's not just a matter of who can score the most points. We're also trying to stop buckets as well. And if you lack the physical tools to do that, then that really makes an impact, especially at the higher levels. So nowadays, you'll see a lot more kids from the area are playing in college. So I think there's been a shift in terms of how basketball is played, but also the philosophy. However, it doesn't discount the fact that you have to be able to defend. Especially if you're a smaller guard. You can't just give up points and just get points, because at some point the scales will tip in the opposite direction. So if kids are really looking to play at the high levels, they've got to become better on-ball defenders. They have to be able to stay in front, move their feet, recover, and then play good defense without fouling. Back to the original concept, though, of team defense and what parents tend to see. A lot of times I'm watching video that parents send me, and it's not so much that their kids can't play defense, it's that they don't know what they're doing from a team perspective. They're not sure how to utilize their help defense. The help defense really doesn't exist. There may not be roles and responsibilities within that. They're not sure if their rule is to force baseline or not force middle, or vice versa. If they're in zone, whose responsibility is to rotate to here, who's closing out on this guy. For example, if we ever run a 2-3 zone, we have a concept where when the ball swings to the wing, the lower defender on that side is going to kind of stunt. They're going to act like they're going to close out, hopefully telling that offensive player, oh, he's going to close out, so you can't drive it, giving one of the top defenders a chance to rotate over so that we don't have to switch in that, giving a chance for the guys in the corner to get open. That's just one example, right? But if everybody just thinks they're supposed to close out, then it creates this whole, chaotic, tumble of players in one area. But that comes down to practice and establishing your roles and responsibilities. If your kids don't understand that and they can't express that verbally and they can't actually tell you what it is, then I think that's your biggest problem. It's not that they can't play defense, it's just they don't know what they're doing. And it could be maybe they weren't listening, which is also one thing out there. They didn't understand the information, or it wasn't provided. or wasn't practiced enough in a way where they can really see how the repetitions feed into real gameplay. And that's where things like small-sided games really come into play in applying constraints. We had our first practice in our micro season yesterday, and one of the things I put on that when we do a lot of our drills is we'll do some small-sided games. In each drill, I'll add in a constraint, or I'll have a bunch of constraints, and I'll say, here are the things you can do. Here's what you can't do. And I'm forcing you to play in these situations by using only these concepts. And then as they pick that up, then I'll layer on another thing and another thing until I kind of see that they're able to kind of put the whole piece together. But a lot of times defense is just stay in front of your man, 2-3 zone, here, protect the middle, get big. But there's a deeper concept to it. And when kids get beat, they get frustrated and they think it's just because my teammates aren't good enough, or, I'm not good enough, or the other team was just way better. When maybe it was just a matter of understanding your roles and responsibilities better, knowing like where the holes are in the defense, where do teams tend to score more when you play defense this way. And if I don't know that, I'm not sure what to protect or what to fight against, right? So I think for a lot of parents, you can rest easy that I think for most of you, it's not that your kids just can't play defense, they're just unsure what to do. So understanding defensive roles. For me, I like to break it down to 4 roles or 4 positions, I call it, on defense. You have your on-ball defender, you have your ball denial defender, or also in the gap, depending on how you play it. You have a help defender, which is a guy that's 2 or more passes away. Typically, they're protecting the paint. And then you have your defender that's in a closeout. At any given time, at any point in time while your team is on defense, based off where you're standing, where the ball is, and who you're guarding, your roles and responsibilities are going to constantly shift as the ball moves, as who you're guarding moves, everything. And so it is a fluid situation where all 5 players on the team have to understand that they're constantly shifting roles, accepting a role, and then giving up a role, but then trusting their teammates are doing the same exact thing. That's what makes good defense. If I'm guarding somebody with a basketball, right, I'm playing on-ball defense. The person next to me guarding the person 1 pass away, they're either in a gap if we're trying to protect things like drives, or they're in ball denial if we're trying to get deflections on steals off passes. And I know that based off what we're playing, they're going to be doing one of those roles. If somebody is guarding somebody 2 or more passes from me, they're going to be more in help. They're like what I call the final boss. They're the guys that are protecting the paint. So if I get beat and the person I'm guarding gets to the rim, or there's a cutter, they're there to make sure that nobody gets to the paint, nobody gets to the rim, no easy layups, nothing in the middle. If I'm guarding somebody and they receive the basketball, I'm in a closeout. My ultimate role is, number 1, stop the shot. I want to prevent the 3. They're not going to shoot it. And I got this from Jay Wright, and I say this all the time. It was one of his coaching clinics. He said, you're never more open than when you first catch the ball. I tell the kids, do you pass to the guy that's being triple teamed? No, you pass to the guy that's open because you're probably facing pressure. And if you catch the basketball, the first thing your eyes should be looking at is the rim. Can you shoot it? Can you drive it? If I can't do those things, then we go through the rest of our offense and we play from there, reading and reacting. But I need to make sure that I'm not allowing this person to shoot it. If I shoot the ball at the rim, it might go in, it might miss. But if I dribble, I'm not getting points for dribbling. I get points for shooting. So if I shoot the basketball, there's a chance it might go in. And if I'm not closing out or lack the ability to do that because I'm not hustling, I'm not sprinting there, then that's a problem. And a lot of times when I see kids play basketball, it's not that they can't sprint to close out, it's that they just don't actually sprint. A lot of parents think, yeah, my kid's got to get better on defense. Well, number 1, is he sprinting to close out? If he's not, that's an effort thing. That's an effort thing. And if your coach is going to sub your kid out for doing that, like, don't now complain like, oh, yeah, he's ruining his confidence. No, your kid was told that he needs to sprint to close out. If he does this a number of times, then that's a problem that he needs to fix for himself. Right? I can't, as a coach or any coach, just sit there and reward that behavior, or lack of effort. And so we had our micro season practice yesterday, and we worked on this drill, and there was a closeout. Obviously, there's always closeout situations in the drill, and so a lot of kids would kind of like jog there. They'd kind of like go halfway, then kind of go there with like half hand up, and then so I brought them in. I tell them, well, first of all, guys, you understand when I talk to you guys, I talk to you like this. I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to scream, I'm not going to go crazy, I'm not going to try to embarrass you. However, I have to say this: if you want to play basketball at a competitive level, you have to close out and you have to sprint to get there. If you're not going to sprint to get there on a closeout, you're going to leave guys wide open, and you have to have more of an urgency. A lot of you guys want to get better at basketball, and some of you guys obviously have feelings about maybe on teams you play for you don't get a lot of playing time. You might feel like things are unfair, but as I'm watching some of you, it's evident why you may not be getting a lot of playing time. It's not because of fairness or because coach has favorites or because other players are mean. Your effort is just not that good. right? And I think a lot of times when we dial it back to that and really look at is my kid actually doing the things they need to do, it's not because of somebody else. It's not because of your system or your strategy or your kid's not good enough. It's just they're giving a really poor effort, right? So first of all, I think a lot of parents need to be honest about that. Are your kids actually putting forth the effort needed to be successful? And then don't like just all of a sudden downgrade it to, well, like maybe their confidence was shot. It's like, look, either you want to play or you don't. You want to be on this team and get minutes and contribute, or you don't. Like, let's stop with the blaming other people, because all that does is reinforce that maybe your kid is just being held back by something when really most of the time it's just them. So most young players understand one role, guarding the ball. Once they're not guarding somebody with a basketball, then life becomes kind of confusing. It's like in that no man's land where they're just in like purgatory. Like, what happens now? I'm not sure. It's kind of like when on offense, a lot of times players, they'll work on all these moves and do all this one-on-one training, but then once the ball is not in their hand, they're not sure what to do. They're not sure about spacing. They just go back to the ball. Here, I'm open. And so what we're trying to teach players that on defense, like, there are roles and responsibilities. You do have things that you need to do. If you're no longer guarding the person with the ball, what happens? If the person passes it, typically you're jumping to the ball. That's a term that we've gone over with our players, jump to the ball. And so we try to establish that as something that's a norm that they do continuously. We're not trying to get beat on the front cut. We're not trying to allow passes back. Once you give up the ball, I'm not letting you get it back. So these are all things that we're trying to establish defensively. And we're not really teaching zone defense at all. I'm not teaching any zone defense. Everything we're doing is based around man-to-man defense, because I want every player to know those concepts. Because I think if they do that, even if they play for a team that plays zone, their defense will be better because they understand these concepts and how to see the game clear versus just hoping and guessing. So role number one, on-ball defender. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but let me help you out right here real quick. So as an on-ball defender, there are a couple keys that I think are important. Number one, as an on-ball defender, your job is to make that ball handler think about you. I don't want them listening to their coach. I don't want them hearing their parents in the stand shouting whatever instructions that they're giving. I don't want them seeing their teammates. I want them forgetting how to run a play. I want to make them think about, how do I protect the ball against this defender? This defender is so aggressive. He's playing really tough. I need to make sure I don't lose the basketball and turn it over. Everything else no longer matters at that point. If I'm playing defense that way and I'm actually allowing myself to become a threat defensively to this ball handler, then to me, I'm doing my job. Now, I can play good defense, and a lot of times if somebody makes a shot or they get a shot, sometimes people think, oh, that was bad defense. But if I'm forcing a player into a tough shot, right, or maybe I'm right there, but they make a good shot, like, both can be same. We had a situation in our microseason practice where there was a series back and forth where our teams were going through transition offense and defense with our 7th and 8th grade teams. And made a couple corrections about like the roles of like who gets to the rim first, who stops the transition three, who's going to watch the next pass, who gets the help side. And the first couple times they gave up some open layups, and then we talked about it, we fixed it, and they came back and they were able to stop those fast break layups. They forced the other team into an offensive series. The other team scored, but it took them a while to get there, and they made some tough shots. And I told them, like, you guys have nothing to hang your head about. You played great defense, transition defense. You guys did a solid job. You stopped the layup. You didn't allow the transition three. You didn't allow the next pass to become a score. They had to get into an offensive flow. They slowed it down for a little bit, and then they made a tough shot against a really good defensive closeout. Good job. Like, both of you did great. So both can be true at the same time. You can play great defense and you still can give up a score. So it's important to make sure you understand what you're looking for. It's not just, oh, they got scored on. It's like, yeah, you don't want to get scored on, but if you did everything right, sometimes they're going to score. And understand it's not about looking at the points that you gave up. It's how you give up those points and then why. And then sometimes there's just nothing you could have done about it. But you still have to reinforce the decision making. Like, you make great decisions defensively. And as long as you keep doing that, if we keep playing, these ratios will start to go in our favor because they're probably not going to make those tough shots forever. So to me, probably one of the most important defenders is the help defender. Now, they often get lost, and a lot of times people don't understand the concept, or players don't understand the concept. But the help defender is the person that's guarding somebody 2 or more passes away from the ball. Now, in this case scenario, it really depends on what type of offense the other team runs, the spacing on the floor, what they're looking at. But typically, if you're guarding somebody that's 2 or more passes from the ball, you're going to be in help. Sometimes coaches will have you right in the paint. Sometimes they'll have you just a foot in the paint, maybe a little bit outside, depending on the age and skill level. Like if you're in high school and guys can make those skip passes across, you might play a little bit wider. So it just depends. But if you're talking about youth basketball, like kids, younger, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, you can maybe pack the paint a little bit more in those situations. But to me, this is the most important guy. Because if you're playing tough offense, on-ball pressure, you're going to get beat at times. Like, there's no way to stop everybody. So if that's the case, if I understand that there's somebody at the rim that's there to help stop layups or anybody inside, any back cuts, anybody going to the middle, it leaves me with more confidence to go out there and say, you know what, I'm going to do my best to play on-ball defense and give pressure. And if I get beat, that's fine, but there's somebody behind me that's going to stop this guy so that I can recover, or maybe we can switch, or whatever your concepts are. But if you know that there's people behind you that have your back, and that's their role, based off where you're forcing them or not leading them to. But if they get there, you know, hey, even if he goes this way, I know this person's here. I sprint back to recover, get back in place. They can guard their person. No harm, no foul. But if you don't understand the role of help defenders as an on-ball defender, if you don't understand the role of help defender as the help defender, then that's going to lead to a lot of confusion. And a lot of times I'll watch a video that parents send me, and I'm watching it, and I'll just see 5 kids just spread out all over the place. And it's like, wow, the middle is just wide open. Like there's nobody there. And this isn't to say coaches don't teach that. Again, I've been coaching for a long time, and I've taught certain things. And you know, you get out there and you'll teach it in practice. It's great. And then when they play basketball, it just all like disappears. And you're like, guys, what are you doing? And so a lot of times when kids go into a chaotic situation, what happens? They revert back to just what their natural tendencies are, or whatever it is they think of first. And you're trying to create situations where you can practice a little bit of chaos, but teach them how to play through that type of chaos and think a little bit clearer. And that's probably the hardest part about coaching, right? Like, how do I get you to think when everything's crazy? Everyone's watching you from the stands, yelling at you, criticizing you, blaming you, yelling at you, wanting you to lose if you're on the other team, and vice versa. Think clearly and make right decisions. And so if I say all that, it kind of puts it into a clear perspective now, right? Like, I'm a little kid in 5th grade and everyone's staring at me and yelling, but you want me to be tough and be stoic. That'd be hard for anybody, right? Even for adults. So why do so many kids look bad on defense? Well, number one, they probably just don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the concepts of defense. It hasn't been taught to them probably at times. The rules, and responsibilities probably haven't been established, and so for a lot of times it's them guessing based off what they think is right and wrong. But again, you're talking about kids. Their decisions may not always be the best in life, right? So you're asking them to work with 4 other players and then come up with the best decisions how to play good team basketball. But if those players don't understand their roles and responsibilities, or because they play on 6 different teams, everyone comes in with their own ideas, it creates this whole flutter of just knowledge that is like useless. Like, it's not consistent across the board. And so if players don't understand spacing, positioning, their roles, it's going to make defense on any team bad. Now, if you have a team full of just good players and good athletes and you roll them out there to play against bad players, yeah, they look great. But let's imagine for this for a second. Every player that you have on your team, you're preparing them to play against the best team in the state of whatever you're at, whatever country you're in, the best team. Like, you would need that whole group that you have to be on the same page. You can't just rely on just like pure skill and individual talent alone. They would need to make sure they know what they're doing, what their roles and responsibilities are, so that they're more anticipating what's about to happen versus just reacting to whatever happens. And let me kind of explain that. So if a kid just reacts to a situation, you know, it's just whatever they feel, whatever they see, and they just do something, you know, without rhyme or reason. If I'm anticipating something, like if I'm playing against a 2-3 zone and I understand where they're trying to trap or where to get to here, I know where my teammates should be. I know where I should be looking at this, where I should be looking at that. So I'll know how to adapt to those situations because I understand what will happen if this happens. You know, if we're talking about things like how we defend ball screens, and I told players we'll get to that next week, but how we defend ball screens, like what are we talking about here? Are we going to hedge this? Are we going to switch it? You know, some teams might go into like icing it. You know, are we going to just, like, it doesn't really matter at that point what it is they're doing unless I understand and anticipate what happens if this happens. If they're going to switch it, okay, cool. What are we looking for? If I'm getting a side ball screen and I know that, you know, their first read is to reject the screen because it's an empty side ball screen, you know, how do we defend that? And if we're going to do that, this is the role and responsibility of this guy and then this guy. But again, if those aren't happening, kids just react to whatever and just make decisions that they think make sense. And when they're not successful at it, it's just, oh, I'm not good enough, or my team sucks, or no, probably your team isn't prepared. Maybe you're just not understanding what needs to be done because you haven't been taught that. And again, knowledge is everything. So that's really at the base of this, right? If your kids don't know what's going on, it makes them look like they just can't play defense, right? But if they're given the information and their team can execute that at the same time, and everyone can look at the same thing and come to the same conclusions about what the anticipated action should be based off what they see, then you get a team that looks way better. Then you get individual players that look better. Then you're getting parents that are like, hey, my kid can play good defense. And then they play for a different team and wonder why they look, you know, not as good. Well, maybe those roles haven't been established. Maybe the rules haven't been established. Maybe they're going off of different rules versus what this team does. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, not just like a kid's individual like quickness. So a couple of things I think parents should be looking for. And I think number one, instead of did my kid stop the other player, are they always getting beat, is did they sprint back on defense? A lot of kids don't sprint back on defense. They'll jog back, and you'll just see all 10 players kind of jogging back at the same time. And you're like, oh, Jesus, get back. So now we're talking about transition defense. What are your roles? Who sprints to the rim to stop the layup? All right. Or when you pass it down court, who's going to sprint to stop the transition three and stop the first shot? Who's going to be there to, if that guy, that could have had the transition three, gives it up and swings it back to the trailer, like who's stopping that next pass? Like all these things have to be like determined. That's why, like for the micro season, my biggest thing is, okay, number one, whoever is the closest offensive player to the opposite rim, you're the guy getting to the rim. I don't care if you're my point guard, if you're my center, you're the biggest or smallest guy on the court. Like you get there to prevent any layups at the rim or any passes. The next person is going to stop the first shooter. The next person after that stops the next pass. The next two of you guys get the help side and find the next guy. If we need to rotate and then like reevaluate defensively, because there's mismatches, we'll do so if you're on the weak side of the ball. But not if you're guarding the person with the ball or closest to it. You just got to lock in and stay home for now until we can switch later on. Does my team communicate? Like, are they talking or are they silent? And if they are talking, are they saying things that have been understood as a team? Are they using the same terminology? Like, that's important too. Some coaches, when they say help, they might say midline, or they might say help. Could mean the same exact thing. When we are playing one pass away, you can either be in a gap or you can be in denial. There's different roles for that, but I want to make sure I establish that. So one of the things I tell guys is sometimes if we know that there's a team who's not really good at driving, we may play more ball denial. If there's a team who's really good at getting to the paint because their ball handlers are strong, we might be more in a gap. And so what I tell them is what do you guys need? If you're guarding on ball, I need gaps, then you know that your guys next to you will fall to a gap position. If you think you're good, you can defend the guy with the basketball. You say, stay. If they're saying stay, then that means they're just going to stay in ball now, right? And we can just make sure we anticipate passes to get the tips and deflections that we're looking for. And so that really depends based off who we're playing against. Protecting the basket is big. A lot of kids don't get to help defense, especially on the weak side of the floor. They're playing too far, they're too wide, they're not really in the paint. And these are things that have to be established. It can feel boring at times, but again, basketball is fluid. Things happen quickly. You can go from help to on-ball defense to ball denial to closeout, and it just happens until the ball either is turned over, is scored, or you steal it, right? Rotate when somebody gets beat. So rotate when somebody gets beat. Like if somebody gets beat off the dribble, or you do, like who is going to rotate over to get there? So if I'm guarding somebody on the baseline and they drive past me, go baseline, the lowest, closest defender is supposed to help, right? And then how we defend that, how we're going to trap that. And who knows to do that. If that lowest, closest defender is too far away, he's not going to get there in time. Now the person I'm guarding has a floater, a layup, a jump shot. But then again, once they leave their guy, like who rotates to that guy? What are the angles that we're looking to play there? Again, this is all team concepts, not just your individual kids, failure or success. Did we close that with high hands? So again, one hand, two hands, every coach has their philosophy. I don't really care, honestly. If you put a hand up to me, that's a win, right? But a lot of kids sprint and they'll close it with hands back, or they do like the anime run where their hands are back like this. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, get your hands up, sprint as if you're trying to reach to like grab like, something in the air. Just put a hand up to show the other player that, hey, I'm coming over here, I'm going to contest the shot. Maybe you block the shot, probably won't, but at least you go over there to contest the shot, put a hand up, but stay low. Like, don't jump. A lot of kids will jump and then they get beat and all of a sudden they're wondering why. Stay down, hand high, stay low. So these are just habits that good defenders have. Like if you're going to be a good defender on your team for any team, if you can do these things, sprint back on defense, communicate with your teammates, know what your terminology is, make sure that you're protecting the rim if you're on help defense, make sure that you rotate when you need to if somebody gets beat or you get beat, and then closing out with high hands. If you do those things, your kid's going to become a better defender. If they do it consistently and with effort, like maximum effort. Defense is like a sprint. It's not like a jog. Like on defense, you are running everywhere. The defensive slide stuff to me is garbage. Like I used to do that too, trust me. Like I did drills, all right, slide, and you're thinking you're teaching footwork. But once it gets into it, you ever see where you have kids, they're playing in a basketball game and they're going against this one ball handler and the kid's guarding them and then they get beat and the kid's still sliding and the guy is like 20 feet away, and kids will just do what you teach them. And so I tell kids, that's why we start off our micro season practice. We do defensive drills one-on-one, full court, no basketball. It's basically just like, like running a route in football. So get from this baseline to that baseline. And then the goal is, number one, to activate the nervous system, kind of turn on, those senses, but get them ready to be quick and explosive. Teach them how to move and stay in front of somebody. But if we just do defensive slides all day, honestly, I swear to God, that's not going to work. It's not, you're not going to serve any kid that way. Teach kids how to move quickly, change directions, react, and then teach them where you want them to stay. Like, what's your rules? No middle. What are we doing? Things like that, so they know how to really force people in better positions. Defense is not just about athleticism. Athleticism is part of it. Don't get me wrong. I do the strength training stuff. We work on the Vertimax. We work on speed. I see kids that can benefit more from being athletic, from being more athletic and be a little bit quicker, and how it can help their defense. So trust me, I believe in that 100% too. But I also know that it's not everything. Like, I've seen really good athletes play bad defense. But it all boils down to the same thing. Whether your kid's super fast or they're not that fast at all, it boils down to how they understand how to play defense. Like, not just for themselves, but as a team. And does the team understand that? Do the four guys behind them or around them understand that as well? And that makes a difference, not just, oh, this guy can't guard anybody. It's like, well, maybe we're not playing this the right way as a team. Maybe I'm using the wrong concepts for this team, right? Maybe I should have this player here. So it all boils down to a lot of different things, not just is your kid fast or slow, right? So the good news for parents is defense is a teachable skill, or the skills within defense are teachable, right? You don't have to be the fastest player. You don't have to be the tallest player. You don't have to be the best shooter. You don't have to be the best of this. You just have to be someone that understands your roles and responsibilities and carries those out to the best of your ability. If you're able to do those things, learning how to close out, that shouldn't be that difficult. If you're standing somewhere, you sprint, you run. Now, starting and stopping, teaching how to change directions, open up. We're going to force guys to go baseline. I'm forcing you towards the corner of the baseline. If you go midline, I'm going to force you above the free throw line, but no paint touches. Like, if you understand what they're trying to avoid and where they want to get to, if they do get beat, like, maybe getting beat is just part of the process. Now teach them what happens after. Like, don't teach them that that's the failure. Teach them what happens when this happens. Versus, like, in case you get beat, here's what you do. No, it's like, okay, so when they drive, when you close out, when they drive, here's where you force them. And just make it the next step of the puzzle versus just like, okay, like break in case of emergency, you're going to get beat if you close out at times. On a hard closeout, the rule is drive, right? Offensively. If I'm at the 3-point line and you close out slow, I'm shooting it. If you close out quickly and I can't take a shot, I'm putting the ball on the ground. Because most human beings don't have the greatest ability to stop, change directions, and then re-accelerate to cut me off. By the time they do that, I usually have my shot already. So that's where help defense really comes into play. Who rotates, who stops here, who's in the gap, things like that. But these are all things that can be taught if they're taught. If they're taught. So when you're watching your kids play, like, ask yourself, number one, has my kid been taught this? Number two, do they understand this? Number three, where can we make the adjustments? And I'm not saying you have to go to your coaches and be like, hey, I heard this thing and this guy says you got to do this. Like, leave me out of this. Leave me out of this. I'm not here to tell you to tell your coach what to do. Like, trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not here for, to like dig up everyone else's practices. But what I am here, hopefully, is just to offer a different way of looking at it. Right? Instead of just thinking my kid isn't good enough, maybe they should try a different sport, or, they're just like, demoralized. Here's another way to look at it to kind of build their motivation and let them know it's not just you. If you closed out better, you play better defense. If you knew that if you were guarding somebody 2 more passes away, you're protecting the rim, you're playing help defense, you're giving up less layups. And then by giving up that, you guys give up a few less points, which led to more wins. Because maybe you've been losing some games by like 2 or 3 points. Well, if you don't give up 3 layups, that's 6 points right there, you win those games. So everything really plays into it and how we want to go ahead and play defense and the knowledge. So closing message, if your kid feels like they're struggling on defense, please don't panic. Please don't panic. Most of the time, it's not just because they're unathletic or they don't have the speed. It's probably because they just don't understand how they're supposed to play defense. They don't understand their roles when they're on defense, their responsibilities, and terms and clear rules have not been put in place for them to follow through. Not just them, the rest of their teammates. And if that can happen, you're going to see to where your kid's going to be a much better defender. You're going to see how their teams can be a little more successful, but also how your kid can get a little more confidence in how they see the game. If they see the game better, they're going to be a little more energized because now it's less about like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the answers, versus, oh, if I fix this, then we can make this happen. And then you see the excitement come back because they have knowledge now. I keep talking to parents all the time and they're like, yeah, coach, my kid's going to your camp. I really need you to help them with their confidence. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got this confidence drill coming up. That's a lie. I don't have one. No one does. Right? So if you want your kid to be more confident, they have to improve their knowledge of the game. That can definitely happen. And part of our goal is to help them gain the knowledge when they're with us during our micro seasons, our AU teams, our basketball camps. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about when we get to our camps this summer. But these are things that can be taught. Your kid can learn it. If they can play these video games and all this other stuff and learn all these TikTok dances and all the intricacies around it, they can learn this, right? It's just a matter of if they're actually being taught, if they're understanding the value of why it's important to learn these things and how it can make them helpful for the team. And if they do those things, that's where your kid's going to get better, right? So that's enough. This has been a long episode. If you've enjoyed it, here we go. If you've enjoyed it, thank you. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, all that good stuff. Send it to another parent who may be searching for the same answers, who might be like, my kid can't play defense. What's going on? Tell them, you know what? It may not be them. Check this out, and I think you might have a different perspective on what they need to do. And maybe it's not just the fact that they can't guard somebody, but it's how they're guarding and how their team is playing defense and the information they need. So if you liked it, like, subscribe. If you have questions, hit me up. Coach White at sfbasportsperformance.com. Not that Coach White there, but that's the website, sfbasportsperformance.com. Instagram, sfba sports performance. Send me a message. I'd love to talk to you. And I'll see you later. And lock in on defense. Peace.